Father Bryden here. I hope everything's going well. Man, it's been a long time since I've recorded a video. I've been pretty consistent in 2023 and even before that, really building up this YouTube channel. Ended up over 2,000 subscribers. I was making money every month, all that fun stuff. And then life just comes, and it comes in different ways. And some of that motivation stops, that consistency stops. And for myself, if I'm going through anything, the frustrating part that I find sometimes is I tend to retreat. I tend to isolate. I tend to not want to talk to anyone. And in some cases, that includes recording videos. I just wanted to have a touch point for anyone who's followed this channel along, who's enjoyed some of the content and what's being created. And for a while there, what I was trying to figure out was how can I build this channel up? And it was really about, okay, let's look at what is trending today. Let's react to this. Let's review it. Let's maybe provide some insights. In some cases, I felt, hey, I was doing a good job with that. In other cases, I thought, I'm really not adding much to this. I haven't even had that much time to digest this information. And there's this current that's running through the world right now where we need to respond and we need to react as quick as possible, pretend that we're experts in it, even though this information has just come out. And yes, of course, there's foundational knowledge that we all have that allows us to then make insights and assessment at that time. I don't think the word is clout chasing, but a very systematic approach to trying to build YouTube videos and that channel, knowing that on my own right, creating videos, generally I don't really have a core audience. And so the only way I could achieve some success is writing on some of those topics. So I do a lot of things on AI and all that good stuff. And I like some of these videos. I think there's some good things. I tested some podcasts. I was testing and experimenting. And some of those videos performed really well. Now it's interesting to see some of the videos that have more staying power, ones that are a little bit more informative or were very early in the release of that topic. So one of the biggest ones was what is prompt engineering. Interestingly, psychedelic videos ranking and even ones going through flows. So Y Combinator, for example, every time there's a new cohort at Y Combinator, then this video goes up because it's about the experience interviewing and everything there. Same thing with Burning Man. People start to search for resources relating to Burning Man, and then they find that. It has been a really interesting journey. I'm, proud of relatively of what I've accomplished, but there's been an overall feeling of, for me, just inconsistency. And great, I feel good here today and recording this video now, and I hope that I can record more. I'm not sure if that's true, and I am really struggling in many ways right now with that part of not just videos in general, but just the world. I think there's so much going on right now, information-wise, huge jumps in technology. I have a company sort of operating as a startup in the AI space. That's another flood of information and things that I'm trying to stay up to date to at all time. We've got larger macroeconomic and geopolitical and world things going on, and generally across the world, a high interest rate environment, inflation, challenges with debt, my own mistakes around buying house, variable rate mortgage, constant flood of frustration and pain there and regret and scheming and trying to figure out what's the best next steps and should I move out of Canada? Should we downsize our house? Got a wedding coming up, planning kids, trying to figure out what's the best life for them, the best life for us, all the lessons that you learn through your own childhood and your own parents and how they were able to raise you, and then what can you take, what's the good, what's the bad, all of those pieces, and really trying to distill that down to understand how can you create the best life for your children and how can you be the best version of yourself for them. And so really just jumbled around, I feel like, into a mess of information and overstimulation, volatility. I'm a Bloomberg boy now. I'm watching Bloomberg all the time. This is Bloomberg. And that's another stream of information. And all of a sudden, so many decisions I've made or so many things to think about are then being layered on with the information that's coming from that. They've got incredible YouTube live presence. I think it's such a strategic piece that they've done. And then on top of that, went for a pre-honeymoon alignment Did an ayahuasca retreat, my first ayahuasca retreat. I had been wanting to do that for 10 years, and I even have some planned dedicated videos on that. But all of those plans seem to get interrupted or delayed or co-opted by this layer of information that I'm ingesting and constant existential crises. And in a previous iteration of my life, these existential crises were, what am I trying to say? They were like super detrimental. I would be borderline suicidal, or even just not even borderline, just suicidal with these existential crises. Now it's just like a layer of ongoing frustration and like a underlying chunk of anxiety and stress that is then operating at all moments, at all times, waking up through that. Younger, going through a much more difficult period, I was much more naive, wasn't in this type of place with a loving partner, with a house and with a dog and all of these things. It felt like every day I was waking up with a weighted blanket on. And if I could describe that weight, I would say it would be like 80% weight. Now, I'll set it at 33%, but that 33% can modulate up to 60%. So let's say 30 to 60%, which is an improvement over the 80%. Still not ideal. And I would say it more averages on that 30 to 40%. But that is just a little bit of a liquid, like a molasses, like just a layer over everything that just slows down your momentum, your motivation. And I think there's this thing that my grandma would always say, and it sticks with me all the time. It's just like, when I was growing up, Dad, I had three choices. This is not what she sounds like. She says, Dad, I was growing up, I have three choices. She said, she's a mafia member now. And I have three choices. Nurse, secretary, or teacher. And why am I saying this? What she would tell me is that the fact that she only really had three choices, or at least that's the way she felt at that time, in a way is almost a comforting thing, because you can just choose one of those. Now, in the day that we're in, with access to all virtual and physical worlds, and the optionality of that, in many cases, blessed and privileged to have some of that optionality, I think many of us are overwhelmed with sense of unlimited options, which then creates that cognitive weight that doesn't allow you to then make decisions, or be constantly, okay, I'm making this decision, but I got all these other options. And so you're then not committing to that one that you've made, because you feel like at any other time that optionality is so much. I think in the past it was like, hey, watch that show 1883. You're like, we're going to go find the promised land in America, and we're going to keep going until we settle. And it's like, you make that decision, you get on the boat, you go. It's a much bigger decision. You just go in and you keep going until you find that spot. And there wasn't as much tiptoeing around in the options and choices in our life. So that's a little bit of a high level assessment of how I'm feeling. I think a lot of people are feeling this way right now. I think there is some sense of trepidation in the world right now, and just overall a bit of fear. And again, some of that being what's going on in wars across the world here right now. Some of it is in the volatility in markets and inflation and interest rates. I think a lot of it is also coming from, especially if you're working in technology, you're looking at, what is this AI doing, and how quickly is this going to replace what I'm doing, and am I really valuable here? And if intelligence, which primarily was what I used to operate off and be the value creation that I had, now that we have access to abundant world information, what is my role and what is my value? I think a lot of people working through that, and a bigger thread, which is interesting to me, has been like, hey, when I was growing up, people who went to college and then say went into trades, it was a horrible culture and mindset, were disregarded as unintelligent, uneducated, and so they would have to go work with their hands and all this stuff. What happened was they got into the working market, they started making money, started making good money earlier. Everyone went into technology because it was sexy and cool, and then so their jobs became in demand, and their roles, because everyone wanted to sit on their computer and be product managers and technologists and all of this stuff. They've gone on to be very successful, whereas in technology, we've basically trained and created the data set to replace ourselves. Which, again, I think there's lots of debate here on, hey, is this a positive thing? Is this a negative thing? Or Are these innovations and step functions forward, are they leading to joblessness, or are they leading to many new variations of jobs or much more productive, creative outputs that we're capable of now that we have these intelligent co-pilots, these partners along with us? So where am I right now? There's a couple things that I'm core interested in. One of the bigger pieces has been this idea of leaving Canada. And what I realize is I'm not the only person who's thinking of this. I'll go to Google Trends here just so we can spot this. Let's take a look at this term now. Is this an accurate representation? We can question about that. But interest over time seeming to trend towards the upside. Lots of reasons for that are GDP, our debt, housing market, affordability, all of those things. There's been a recent piece in capital gains tax, which got everyone upset and not feeling very happy. So again, not the only one. And what I found as I, went through this journey, there are lots of people who are going through this. So I've come across this wonderful man, the Nomad Capitalist, and he's an interesting guy, now wealthy, dealing with people with $1 million or more in cash, and basically helping them diversify themselves through different passports, living in different places, putting their money in different places. And then if I probably spent a little bit of time scrolling through my YouTube feed here, I'm in the funnel, but between that and Twitter, I'd definitely be able to come across some anti-Canada sentiment and rhetoric and people trying to leave. And so then the question has been like, where do we want to go? And so then that opens up this Pandora's box of all those questions and opportunities there. And is it Mexico, but you get your head cut off? Is it United States? But then United States is in a similar situation. Portugal has been inundated with tourism. Spain, same thing. They're pushing back. What's the healthcare? Tasia. What's up, buddy? Got Tasia here. Did you just come from a run? Tasia just came from a run. What's up, buddy? He doesn't know what he's doing. He just wanted to come say hi. He had no role in this. He had no part of this. Hey, yeah, what's up, buddy? What? How? Mommy? Don't take the Kleenex. Go. He's gone. In and out. To Google Docs, taking a look at this and what options do we have. In here, we got Pierre, the conservative, coming into power, most likely, and everyone hates Trudeau. And so October 2025, but then how long does things start to correct? Is Canada and Ontario the right place to be? You've got all the options there. What are the most tax-friendly? What have the best healthcare? How many kids? Where do you want them to grow up? Language, exchange rate. What are the best places to live now? What are the best places to live in the future? And so I feel like we're playing this large-scale geometric puzzle that you're trying to put together to optimize your life and live it out in the best way. But then what happens, you spend all that time visualizing and philosophizing and just playing out all these scenarios in your head, and you realize you're not necessarily living in the moment and not enjoying that. And so I think that's been part of the journey over the last few. So I have no idea if I was successful at all in this video. I feel like fairly unsuccessful, but it's better than not creating anything. And so that's my resolve for now, because these core topics are so intrinsic in my life now. I hope to be able to do deeper dives on these actual pieces. If you have any thoughts or ideas, drop it in and let me know. A little state of the moment, state of the union, Tyler's union. I think it's both a moment to be grateful for where you're at and what you've achieved, and then also realize we are into a very quick moving, volatile, dynamic landscape and world, and that you need to be prepared, and also trying to find that balance between that gratefulness and that ambition for more. And where is the middle way of that? And as I think about, hey, what does the next chapter look like, especially with kids and with work and all of this, I keep coming back to asking people on their deathbed, what do you regret? And often the regret is, I wish I hadn't worked so much. I wish I had spent more time with family. I wish I had spent more time on love and in nature and all of these things. And so as I'm trying to make these decisions, it's weird that you can peer forward into someone or many people's reflection on the last moments of their life, and that consistent theme run throughout. And so if you're able to take that internally and within, at least part of that should be the optimization you are making in your own life and the decisions that you're making. And yeah, of course, we all want to live better. We want to make more money and we want to accomplish great things. But at the same time, on a linear scale, on a time scale, we're so small and minuscule in it. And it doesn't really matter how hard you work and what you accomplished. Generations from now, no one will know who you are. No one will remember your accomplishments. And there's that other concept of you die twice, once when you die and once when someone speaks your name for the last time. And depending on where you are and what you've done, those things can happen very quickly, or maybe they're delayed a little bit. But in the end, it will happen. What a beautiful, happy note to end on. This has been Tyler Bryden, ranting, raving, going through all these things. I hope you enjoyed and got something out of this. If you have some ideas for me based on what I've shared today, would love to hear from you. Nice to be back creating, again, not the usual video and exactly what I'm even trying to accomplish, but at least something out there. And thank you so much for checking this out. If you did, have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.